Since 1972, Sentry Siren has been one of the biggest siren brands on the market. Of course, next to American Signal Corporation, formerly Alerting Communicators of America, and Federal Signal in terms of mechanical sirens. Hello, I'm Weather Siren Anonymous, and welcome back to another video. You may notice that I'm no longer the Siren Geek. Well, if you have looked at my community posts, there is enthusiast with that channel name. So from now on, this channel is Weather Siren Anonymous. With that being said, let's get into the video. Starting as Sterling Siren, Sentry Siren took over ownership of Sterling's designs after being founded in 1972. The founders, Scott and Bill Yarberry, and their Kansas City, Colorado-based company Sentry, started making sirens based off of Sterling's designs. This came after Sterling's downfall, eventually leading to Sterling leaving the business. With that overview out of the way, let's get into the models that were and are currently being made. The 3V8 is the smallest purpose-built outdoor warning siren in Sentry's lineup, as well as the cheapest. It has been a mainstay in Sentry's catalog since its introduction, and has been used in many places for a wide variety of purposes. The 3V8 was introduced in 1980 as part of Sentry's 1980s lineup, which also included the 5V, 10V, and 20V2T, following the success of the earlier 10V2T. The 3V8 is the smallest of that lineup, and is intended for short-range use, often by industrial sites or fire stations. As early as 1999, a variant of the 3V8 was advertised with 8 horns attached to a stator port instead of a skirt. This is branded as a 3V8H, and while it is slightly more expensive, the horns increase the siren's performance. Except for the horns, the 3V8H is identical to the standard 3V8. These horns make the siren very similar in appearance to the 7V8, but shorter in height due to the 3V8's small rotor. In 2015, another variant of the 3V8 was introduced, named the 3V8HB. The 3V8HB is the DC alternative to the 3V8, running on a 4 horsepower, 42 volt DC motor rather than a 5 horsepower AC motor. This allows the siren to run on battery backup if AC power is lost, and is rated to run approximately 30 minutes after power is lost. The 3V8HB performs identically to a standard 3V8H. The 7V8 is the mid-range single-rotor siren in Sentry's current lineup, replacing the 5V for this purpose. The 7V8 was introduced in the year 2000, alongside the 16V1TB. The 7V8 was designed to replace the 5V, which lacked any sort of amplification for its sound and became redundant. The 7V8 reaches the same sound output as the 5V at 112 decibels at 100 feet, but the addition of horns allows the sound to be projected further. In 2002, a DC-powered battery backup-capable version of the 7V8 was released, designated the 7V8B. The 7V8B uses an 8 horsepower, 72-volt DC motor instead of the 7.5 horsepower AC motor of the standard 7V8, which allows the siren to run on battery backup if AC power is lost. The siren is rated to run approximately 30 minutes after AC power is lost before the batteries run out of power. The 7V8B is otherwise entirely identical to the standard 7V8 in both appearance and performance. The 10V is the second largest of Sentry's single-rotor sirens, as well as the most versatile. It is another mainstay of Sentry's lineup. The 10V was introduced in 1980, following the success of the earlier 10V2T, alongside the rest of Sentry's 1980s lineup, which included the 3V8, 5V, and 20V2T. The 10V is the second largest single-rotor siren produced by Sentry after the introduction of the 14V, and at the time of its release was the largest. The 10V performs at 115 decibels at 100 feet, according to Sentry. The 3V8s, 7V8s, and 10Vs have one common similarity. They are all 8-port sirens. This is also true with the majority of dual-rotor sirens, which I will get into in a minute. The 14V is the largest and most powerful of Sentry's single-rotor sirens, being a little more than a 40V2T cut in half. It is intended for longer range use than its single-rotor contemporaries. The 14V is one of Sentry's newest sirens, being introduced in 2015. The 14V is essentially a Sentry 40V2T that has been cut in half, using the same 10-port single-tone rotor and stator as the lower half of a 40V2T. The 14V performs at 127 decibels at 100 feet, according to Sentry. The 14V is also available in DC power in the form of the 14VB. The 14VB makes use of a DC motor with a battery backup unit if AC power is lost. The siren is rated to run approximately 30 minutes before running out of power when running on its batteries. The 14VB is otherwise identical to the standard 14V in both performance and design, with the only difference being the tag, nonlinear windup, and the addition of the battery enclosure next to the controls. The 10V1T was released in 2022 as a successor to the discontinued 10V2T. Intended to be a cheap dual-rotor option for those on a budget, it is the smallest and cheapest of all of Sentry's dual-rotor options. The 10V1T was released in September 2022, a few months after the 10V2T was discontinued in June of the same year. However, this siren did not appear on Sentry's website until February 2023. The 10V1T performs identically to its predecessor, outputting 120 decibels at 100 feet in a 360-degree radius, at least according to Sentry's claims. This places it directly between Sentry single-rotor options such as 7V8 and 10V, and the larger dual-rotor 15V XT or 16V1TB in terms of performance and cost, making it a very cost-effective siren. The 15VXT is a siren that was introduced as a stopgap between the 10VXT and 20VXT, and is a solid and popular choice for cities looking for a mid-range dual-rotor siren. The 15VXT was introduced in 1986 and has the distinction of being the first siren introduced by Sentry after their lineup in 1980. The 15VXT is nearly as loud as the 20VXT, while also not being quite as expensive, which makes it more appealing to customers. The 15VXT shares the same designs as the 16V1TB and 20VXT. The siren is able to reach 124 decibels at 100 feet as claimed by Sentry. The 16V1TB is a DC-powered omnidirectional siren and Sentry's most popular DC offering. The 16V1TB was introduced in the year 2004 as Sentry's largest battery backup-equipped siren. The 16V1TB was the end result of an experiment by Sentry to create a DC-powered siren in order to compete with the likes of Federal Signal 2001's and ASC's Tempest series of sirens, which are outselling Sentry's AC-only offerings. This began as a dual-tone, dual-rotor Sentry 15V2TB in 2002, which was refined into the 16V1TB. The 16V1TB shares the same design as the 15VXT and 20VXT. Due to running on DC power, the siren can run on battery backup, allowing it to run for approximately 30 minutes after AC power is lost. The siren is able to reach 129 decibels at 100 feet, as claimed by Sentry, though this claim is questionable as it uses the same rotors as the 15VXT and 20VXT, which have a lower claimed decibel rating. Due to the nature of DC motors, the two motors do not run at the same speed, which causes a distinctive warbling sound as the two rotor sounds clash. The 20VXT is essentially a higher horsepower variant of the 15VXT. The 20VXT is the second highest horsepower siren that Sentry currently offers, only beaten by the 40V2T. Following the success of the earlier 10V2T, the 20VXT was introduced in 1980 as a dual-tone 20V2T, as part of Sentry's 1980s lineup, alongside the 3V8, 5V, and 10V. The 20V2T was the loudest, largest, and most powerful offering that Sentry had upon its release. The 20VXT shares the same design as the 16V1TB and the 15VXT. The 20VXT is rated at 125 decibels at 100 feet by Sentry. Early production 20V2T units used square horns instead of round ones. These were the earliest 20VXT units produced and were only made for a short time. Approximately 50 of these units were produced between 1980 and 1981, before it was decided these were too difficult and expensive to produce. In 1981, the horns were changed to the round design used today. Very few of these units remain today. The 40V2T holds the title as the loudest siren produced by Sentry, as well as one of the loudest omnidirectional sirens ever produced, only beaten by the likes of the HOR Super Sirex. The exact date of the 40V2T's introduction is unknown, though documentation exists as early as 1998 using the siren's current design. The 40V2T dethroned the 20V XT as Sentry's loudest siren upon its introduction, with its own unique design. The 40V2T was originally rated by Sentry at 127 decibels at 100 feet, but this was changed for no apparent reason to 131 decibels at 100 feet despite no design changes. Thus, it is smart to take Sentry's decibel ratings with a grain of salt. These units could be bought with single-tone or dual-tone choppers. The 10VXT, 15VXT, and 20VXT are 8-port sirens if they are single-tone. If they are dual-tone, then they would be 8-16-port. The 40VXT, however, if they are single-tone, then they are 10-port. If it's dual-tone, then they are 10-15-port. Thanks for watching. If you enjoyed, hit that like button down below. While you are down there, if you haven't already, hit that subscribe button and turn on notifications to never miss an upload. With that being said, I will catch you all in the next one. Peace.